Oh, hello. I am so glad to see you. You must have had your bookie radar out to be able to wander into our little bookshop. Yeah, we're a little off the beaten path and down a couple alleys. So it's usually only those who really have their nose for a book that end up finding us. Just the special ones. Yeah. So obviously we have all manner of books around, fiction, nonfiction, everything in between. So you can feel free to browse. Definitely you can do that. But of course, since this is Tingledom, if you'd like, I can grab out a selection of books and tell you all about them. I had a feeling you might like that. Yes, and I'll pull up your Tingle profile so it will be personalized just to you. Okay, let me just grab a few books and we will just get to delve into the beautiful world of books. Welcome to Tingledom. Okay, well, I've started by pulling a few of our favorite non-fiction books, and I have one over there as well that doesn't fit on here. So we'll go through these, and then I have a couple box sets to show you as well, which are fiction. So let's start off with our first book. So this is The Paradox of Choice. And this is written by Barry Schwartz. And this is a book that talks about how things have changed in our current society, how there's a philosophy that basically the more choices that we have, then the happier that we will be. But research actually shows that when we have too many choices, then our happiness goes down. And so they talk about some very helpful ways to deal with this paradox of choice that we face in modern life. So it's a very interesting book. The next one I have to show you is Built to Last. Now, this was a very, very groundbreaking book when it was first published back in the 90s, and the information is still very relevant today. So what they talk about in this book is basically the difference between visionary companies and what they call comparison companies. Visionary companies were those who were recognized by their peers as being more visionary. Disney, Boeing, GE are a few options for the visionary companies. And there's some very interesting theories that come out of here about how to create visionary companies, and hence companies that will be built to last. And these sort of things are not just relevant for those interested in business, but kind of the principles behind, I guess, what's important for building, a family that sort of things. Just how to bring vision to whatever you're pursuing. So that's a nice book. Next is a much more recent book, and that is Feng Modern. And this comes from, you can see down here, Cliff Tan, who I definitely found out about through YouTube. He's on TikTok as well. He has lots of great little videos talking about Feng Shui and how to improve the Feng Shui in your home. And this is his book that goes into a bit more detail into some of those things. But it is very a quick read, so if you want something overly detailed about Feng Shui, this isn't necessarily that book. But if you just have, little bits of time to read on the train or bits and pieces here and there, then this is definitely very approachable for that sort of time. Now, the next book I have to show you is Emotional First Aid. Now, this I find a very helpful book. So we know how important first aid is for dealing with cuts and that sort of thing. You put a Band-Aid on it and it heals so much faster. Well, Emotional First Aid talks about those sort of concepts, but for the emotions we deal with in life. You can see they talk about here rejection, guilt, failure. These are things that we all have to deal with from time to time, and they are things that can be very difficult to deal with, and so can throw us off our game and make us not feel as good as we might wish. So he just gives you helpful things you can do, exercises, or recommendations. He has a really great story in here about loneliness and how he helped a client overcome his loneliness and make friends at university, even though he had a physical deformity, which might make it hard for people to feel like he could be approachable, but taught him how to use humor to make it so that other people could be comfortable to talk to him, and how he was able to use his extensive sports knowledge to talk to people about the Yankees. There's some really great stories in here, but I also just love it. I think it's something that everyone should have, because we all, can face these things from time to time, and it's really helpful to just have a guide to let you know about those things right when you need them. So definitely a good book for that. Now I'll pull over the final book that I have. That's a nonfiction book. And this is The Writer's Journey. It's by Christopher Vogler, who has a big history with the hero's journey. He first published a little pamphlet that went around, I think it was Disney, but somewhere in Hollywood, about the hero's journey, which is based on Joseph Campbell's original book about it. And this is his book about it, and this is the 25th anniversary edition, so it is slightly updated with some new movie options and that sort of thing. but it's really great for anybody who's interested in that heroic structure and way of analyzing books or movies. And they do talk about archetypes and other writing elements. So anybody who's interested in stories and kind of the nuts and bolts underneath stories, then this could be a good book for them. So that was our final nonfiction book that I pulled for you. Now I have my 2 box sets that I wanted to show you as well. So let me grab up the first one. I'll clear this up so we can have a little more room for our box sets. Now this first box set you can see is the complete Jane Austen Word Cloud Classics. So this has all of Jane Austen's 6 published novels. It doesn't include anything like Sanditon or the Watsons, which were never published. It's just her books that were published. But it does include Persuasion and Northanger Abbey, which were published after she had died. Persuasion was definitely in the format she wanted it to be, and Northanger Abbey she actually tried to publish a lot earlier. So we'll just have a little run through these books. I think some you may know better than others, but just good to have a little fun and to find out a bit more about them. So first we'll look at Emma, and you can see on here that we have a great texture, and this has quotes from the book put embossed into the cover. And I really like about these is that they are flexi-bound. So they are sturdier than a paperback, so you can definitely get lots of reads out of this. But they are not so stiff as a hardback that you don't have any give, and it can make your hand fatigued as you're reading. So they're kind of the best of both worlds. And I do just love the embossing on here. And with Emma, you get this wonderful gold color that just shimmers in the title. Now, Emma is her 3rd novel. So it went Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, and then Emma. Or was it Mansfield Park? Now I can't remember. This one, I believe, is the one that was inscribed and dedicated to the Prince Regent, which was an interesting story because I think she felt somewhat obligated to do so. But I think it was also an honor to be asked to do that. But it also meant she had to give the Prince Regent a free copy of Emma as well. So just interesting little things that were happening at the time. Emma is one of the things that Jane Austen said about Emma was that she had created a heroine that she thought nobody but her would like. And Emma is a bit of a busybody and a bit foolish, while also being very privileged. But it is a fun read. There's lots of wordplay in here and word games. So that's a fun book for that. Now next, we'll go to Northanger Abbey. This is one of her earliest novels. It was published, as I said, after her death. One of the most fun things that there is about this book that you won't actually find out just by reading it is she has these little digs in the book about a character named Richard. And the original publisher, so she sold the copyright for Northanger Abbey, which was called Catherine at the time because that's the main character. And the publisher never then actually published it. So once she had sold Sense and Sensibility and all that, then she purchased it back herself, not letting him know that she was actually the one who had written it. But his name was Richard, so there was back and forth, and she was not happy with him about not publishing the book. And so when she revised this, there are actually these little digs about the character named Richard in there, so that just explains that. This is probably the outlier in her books because it was her earliest one. It's a bit of a parody of the Gothic novel, which the other books are more just a kind of up and down narrative themselves rather than that much parody. So I do love the hero in Northanger Abbey. He is a real charmer, but it probably actually is my least favorite. But he's my second favorite hero, which is kind of funny. Now here we get to her most popular book since her death, for sure. Probably Sense and Sensibility was more popular at the time. But Pride and Prejudice, what a book. Who doesn't love Mr. Darcy? And it's just genius. It's, just an inspiring book. Great characters, very, very funny. Lots of humor packed away in Pride and Prejudice. So if there is one Jane Austen book to read, this is definitely the one I recommend. So now we move to Mansfield Park. This is probably her least favorite novel by people. A lot of people think that the main character is a bit weak. She is very timid, but strong. She still sticks up for herself and makes her own decisions, but she's much quieter and not as vivacious, but that's also part of her history. And there's also some really interesting things about home theater, because there's amateur theater that's put on in volume 1, and the main character thinks it's a bad idea because she thinks her uncle wouldn't like it. And so lots of people have taken this to mean that Jane Austen didn't think that was proper, but there is a great book, I think it was Paula Byrne, but I can't remember exactly, who had a book talking about her love affair with the theater and how her family put on amateur theatricals that she was definitely a part of, and how she was an avid theater goer while she was writing all of her books. So not just earlier in her life, but at that point as well. So I really love the first volume. I think it's fun, and it's definitely worth a read if you like Jane Austen. Then to Sense and Sensibility, which was, as I said, her most popular book, I think, while she was alive. And these, so Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility, she wrote while she was younger, and then rewrote them to publish later in life, and that was then when she got them first published, and Sense and Sensibility made quite a stir at the time. It is about two sisters, so there's actually an archaic meaning of sensibility, or maybe a less known definition of sensibility, which makes the title make more sense. So Sense and Sensibility is meant to describe the two sisters who are the main characters, Eleanor being sense and Mary Ann being sensibility. And by sensibility, we don't mean a synonym of sense, but somebody who is overly taken with their senses, somebody who thinks that we should be driven by our feelings and emotions and mood. Not quite hedonistic, because they still had an idea of morality and wouldn't be considered libertine, that sort of thing, but more very much of the moment and extracting every bit that you can out of the details of life. And if you read the book, you'll get an idea of probably what Jane Austen's idea was of that sort of thinking. But yeah, so I think it's a quite good book as well. And then finally we have Persuasion, which is my personal second favorite. Pride and Prejudice is hard to outdo, but Persuasion's a wonderful book. It's short, so you can see it's thin. It is only 2 volumes, and it's about 200 pages. It's a quick little read, and it's very funny, but also just super. It's a bit more mature. As I said, it's her last novel that she fully completed, and just has a more mature look on love, and it's called, I think, an autumn romance, but it's quite enjoyable. So all of them together are definitely worth a read, and I do quite enjoy the word cloud set, because you can see them all together. They make a wonderful addition to your bookshelf. Now, our final bit is going to be our Harry Potter box set, so let me pull that out. And here we have our Harry Potter box set. And we'll open it up in just a minute. I want you to be able to see this beautiful box that it comes in. It's very sturdy cardboard. Gorgeous, striking red, embossed with this wonderful golden lion, which just shimmers in the light. It feels magical before you've even opened the box. But let's open now. As we open, you can see all 7 books are here. These are the British versions. So you'll get them in J.K. Rowling's original British English. And we have all 7 books. I love the bright colors of these books. A striking purple for our first book. Lovely green mystical blue for The Prisoner of Azkaban, where Harry first produces his Patronus. A nice light blue for the Goblet of Fire. And this very striking orange on the Order of Phoenix. You can see our Thestrals and dragons are featuring on our spine for these two. We get Dumbledore in the spine of the Half-Blood Prince. And then we have You Must Not Be Named. I don't know that I dare say his name. And Harry in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. So we have all 7 books. So you can spend a long time reading and enjoying. So is there anything that's caught your fancy? Or anything you'd like